Shalom everybody. In today's video, we will be going through technical gates 32 and onward. As with all of these videos, a QR code will be provided at the very beginning, giving a free PDF copy of this entire sefer during the opening sequence. In addition, there is a WhatsApp public group where new announcements are made regarding up and coming projects and other things before their releases. So if you'd like to sign up and join to be a part of that community, I'll leave a link for it down below. There are also physical copies of this sefer available on Amazon and bookbaby.com. Without further ado, let us begin. Page 247, Technical Gate 32, Tiferet. We will briefly discuss the secrets of Tiferet. The name of God that corresponds to Tiferet is Yud-He Vav-He, and this alludes to the chest, specifically the heart, as written regarding Noach and the flood. It grieved Yud-He Vav-He at his heart, which alludes to the connection of Yud-He Vav-He and the heart. We find that the heart has 4 chambers in the image of the 4 letters of Yud-He Vav-He. Above the chest rests the high priest breastplate, of which contains 12 names of the 12 tribes. Regarding this, we find the heart of 4 chambers, an example Yud-He Vav-He, is surrounded by 12 ribs. For those who are of the wisdom, they were begotten while with Lavan, which is Chokhmah, bone and white. Thus we find that the sphere of Tiferet is called by the divine name of Hashem Yud-He Vav-He, and this corresponds to the 4 chambers of the heart itself, and the secret of, and it grieved Yud-He Vav-He at his heart. Furthermore, we find that the heart is encased between 12 ribs, and that these 12 ribs are symbolic of the 12 tribes of Israel. They were begotten during Yaakov's sojourning with Lavan, and Lavan is the secret of whiteness, being Chokhmah himself, and the aspect of the bones. Thus we find that the high priest breastplate containing 12 names symbolically sits upon the chest, which encases the heart. All of this is like outer court, inner court, etc. Technical Gate 33, 6 letters. There are 6 letters containing one tagging. They are the letters Beit, Dalet, Kof, Yud, Het, and He. They are in the secret of the stones places to the right and left of the shoulders. An example, at the top of the right and the left shoulders of the high priest were 2 stones, one on the right and one on the left, and upon these stones were engraved 6 tribes to each, for a total of 12. These being the 6 fronts and backs of these vessels, and corresponding to these are the 6 segments of the body: the head, the right arm, the left arm, the torso, the right leg, and the left leg, the reproductive organ. We will also discuss the secret of these 6 regarding the lungs. Take time to analyze the tikkunim. Now, these 6 letters, Beit, Dalet, Kof, Het, Yud, and He, are symbolic of Israel Saba and Israel Tavuna. They emanate from the backsides of Abba and Imo, which were discussed in the previous gate. Thus on the bottom right, we see here Partsuf, Israel Saba, and Tavuna, which are vessel and essence. Tavuna is the vessel, and the essence is Israel Saba. We thus find here The secret of the letters, in which involve the kings that were destroyed, having 3 tagen, and we know they are Shin, Ayin, Tes, Nun, Zain, Gimel, and Sadi. And now we are looking at the letters Beit, Dalet, Kov, Chet, Yud, Che, and they have 1 tagen, as it is explicitly stated here. And it says in Hebrew, Achoreim le'ava va'ima, the backs of Abba and Ima, as was just made known to you all. On page 249, we see a representation of a part of the Elon discussing exactly these letters. And we find them here, Beit, Dalet, He, Chet, Yud, and Kof. Technical gate 34, the lungs. The Zohar states there is a certain serpent in the middle of the bars that flies through the air, having 6 wings, and of which is blind. The secret of this serpent is the tongue, of which it is the reason that it is blind. Its 6 wings are the lobes of the lungs, and it flies through the air because the lungs fill with air, by which the voice is projected by the tongue. This is expressed in Book 7 of Likutei HaMoran by Rav Nachman of Breslov. Thus we see the 6 lobes of the lungs are how the serpent beats its wings. It is in the secret of 6, an example, the letter Vav. The letter Vav in relation to the face corresponds to the mouth and the tongue specifically. Thus the serpent is blind because it is not in the aspect of the eyes but the aspect of the tongue, from which it was said, and the serpent spoke, being the quality of the tongue. Now everything that is spoken is derived from the air that is inside of the lungs. Thus this serpent flying in the middle of the boards, an example in the center of the chest, beats its 6 wings, an example of the 6 lobes of the lungs, to rise the air for the purpose of speech through the tongue. A similar concept was expressed when we listed on the previous page the 6 segments: the head, right arm, torso, right leg, and left leg, which are 6 in totality. It then stated, and the reproductive organ, because the reproductive organ is the yisod of the body, an example, the secret of the letter Vav, or the 6th. Likutei Macharon states in Book 7, number 63, part 5, since speech emerges from the lobes of the lungs, the wings of the serpent are therefore made from them. This is because the speech that emerges from the 6 rings of the trachea parallels the aforementioned 6 wings of holiness. Now the serpent signifies those scholars at doing evil who study philosophy and heretical teachings. As it is written, they are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. They are scholars only at doing evil. If they should want to use their wisdom for good, they could not. They are the aspect of the serpent, the aspect of, now the serpent was the most cunning of all the wild beasts. Speech emerges from these wings. The lobes of the lungs are called wings, literally wings of the lungs. This is because the lobes flutter like wings as they cool the heart, which is made warm by exertion as it pumps blood to all the different parts of the body. The lobes are the aspect thus of the wings, made by words of speech. Gate 34, wisdom and understanding. We have learned that Bina, understanding, is flesh, and Chokmah, wisdom, is bone. Thus we can learn a new tikkun regarding the verse wisdom and understanding, and have understanding in wisdom. It can be read as wisdom, or bone, in understanding, or flesh, which bone is embraced by flesh, and similarly understanding, flesh, and wisdom, bone, which refers to flesh and bone, mainly marrow, also red and white blood cells. Take time to realize this tikkun and realize the bone and flesh and the flesh and bone. Thus we find to have wisdom in understanding means to have bone and flesh, which we witness. And to understand in wisdom means to have flesh inside of bone, which we see via the bone marrow. The verse is thus brought to its full atzil, not being philosophical in nature or being contemplative in nature, but revelatory at the level of atzilus, which is the level of sight. In addition, we find in the same white and red, the white and red blood cells of the body. Continuing onwards, we find ourselves on page 253. This was a tikkun that was gone through in our last gates, the gates of Abba and Ima, where we learned the secret of his left hand is under my head, his right hand embraces me. We learned that the right column was white, an example the male, and the left column was red, an example the female. But we learned that in the female's partsuf, his left hand, an example the red of her partsuf, is under my head, an example Keter, Hokmah, and Bina, which is called head. His right hand, an example the whiteness, embraces me. So we found that whiteness was flowing to the upper portion of the female's body. We thus saw that woman produced red from below and white from the breasts. Continuing forward. Technical Gate 35, Zerainpin. The partsufim of Zerainpin are formed by Israel Saba and Israel Tavuna. To be precise, they are the vessel and essence of this partsufim respectively. Corresponding to the essence of his Hokmah and Bina, the Netzach, Hod, and Yisod of any partsufim is the Hokmah, Bina, and Da'as of the preceding partsufim. We find that Israel Saba and Tavuna, lower three, are the Hokmah, Bina, and Da'as of Zerainpin. We find that Malchus of this partsufim emerged from this place in connection with his Da'as. This is the partsufim otherwise known as Leah, and corresponds to Jerusalem, which is Bina of Zer. We find that emerging from Tiferet are two aspects, one from Israel Saba and one from Tavuna. From Israel Saba emerges the partsufim called Yaakov, which extends to the Ochev, heel, and we also find that Rachel, which emerges from the aspect remaining in Tavuna, and collectively they are the aspects of Zerainpin, which we find is disconnected from Malchus, apples from the orchard, and the secret of conveyance of Leah's higher wisdom. So collectively, we find the partsufim of Zerainpin, Keter, Hokmah, Bina, Da'as, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yisod. And it was stated explicitly regarding the partufims of Saba and Tavuna, that the Netzach, Hod, Yisod of one world create the Hokmah, Bina, Da'as of another world. Now when they formed this Hokmah, Bina, and Da'as, being the Netzach, Hod, Yisod, Malchus is still attached. This Malchus is because it is known and explained in the Zohar that Malchus is in the same chamber as Yisod. So when the Da'as of Zerainpin is formed, Malchus emerges. And so the Malchus that emerges from the partsufim here at Da'as is the one known as Leah. A similar thing occurs as the greater lights enter in at the level of Tiferet, whereas it was just stated the aspects of Israel Saba emerge, which is the aspect of the partsufim called Yaakov, and the aspects of Israel Tavuna emerge, which is the aspect of the partsufim of Rachel. Now these details are expounded in much greater detail in another place, and what is known is that this is separated from Malchus. This being a technical gate, we won't get into the atzil of it here, but it will be revealed later. Going forward on page 256, we see a diagram of concepts that were revealed to us previously. We discussed the secret of how the 22 letters are in relation with the 11 fronts and the 11 backs of the Sefirot. We revealed how this is the secret of the body and the face. An example, the concept that was arizal, or the tree on top of tree. We learned that there was a tree of the face and the kether of the tree of the body. And now we will discuss the secret of Technical Gate 36, an example, the serpent. Technical Gate 36, the serpent. We return to an earlier established tikkun, the connection between Malchus and Kether, the bruising of the head and the wounding of the heel. An example we learned regarding the serpent, that the serpent, or an example, the tree of the body, was cast on his belly, an example, sideways, to eat the dust. Dust is a key word for Malchus. So we find that all of the animals' bodies are sideways, as demonstrated here, but they have a tree of the face and the kether, the tree of their body, in relation. For those of you that need to go into more detail about this aspect, it was done previously in a prior gate. We established how these fronts and backs of the tree refer to the body and the face respectively. Bearing this in mind, we will analyze the secret of the serpent. First, let us grasp the secret of the serpent being cast on its belly to eat the dust. Thus we find the concept of the side partsuv, which all of the animals partake of. Their bodies are formed sideways and is connected to Malchus because the progression of the letters goes to Malchus to Kether, as is demonstrated here. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yud, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Fe, Tzadi, Kof, Resh, Shin, Tav. We discuss how the principle of the tree of the face is all located in this one sphirot, an example, the Kether of the tree of the body. We discuss how the animals were sideways, containing this entire tree of the face in this one sphira, the tree of the body. Now we're going to be discussing a much greater secret. When analyzing the aspect of the Partsufim of Ima, we find after this likeness are the animals, as they are all sideways in the secret of the serpent's Partsufim. We find they have a tree of the face in relation to the tree of their body, however they are, as it were, cast on the belly. We find that the head of the serpent is bruised, an example Kether, Hokmah, and Bina. So we find that bone emerges from these 3 points in the head. This is because the animals are in the secret of Bina, and after the same Partsufim they are formed. Now I will declare to you another secret. The feet are sideways, and the hands are linear in the same secret, in example side Partsufim, as demonstrated. It is time to see this. So in relation to the aspects of the serpent being cast on his belly, we find that the feet are sideways. In example, we find the tree of the body, and we find the aspect of the serpent. We find this is in relation to the feet. Now, with regards to the animals, it was stated the serpent was cast on his belly to eat the dust. Dust is a symbol for Malchus. We found that the serpent's head was bruised. An example, this bruising refers to its connection between the heel and the head. This is the bruised heel and the bruised head. Because the serpent still retains the aspect of the tree on top of tree, or et. However, in relation to the animals, the body of the animals are cast on its side, as it were, an example, sideways. We learned here also that there is an aspect of Ima, as discussed before, and that whiteness is flowing from that upper portion, in the secret of his left hand is under my hand, his right hand embraces me. We thus find that animals are sideways with the tree of the face in the Kether, the tree of the body. However, bone grows from these positions on their body. An example, you'll find bone growing from the aspect of their Kether, meaning the front of their head, an example like a rhinoceros, and we'll find bone is going from the 2 sides of Hokmah and Bina of their head, an example like antlers and horns, like as if rams and goats. And we'll also find that the whiteness can cover the backside of the animal, as an example like a turtle. In relation to this aspect, also understand that to the level of a Asiya, it corresponds to the level of the feet and why the feet are sideways. For at the highest level, the tree on top of tree in relation to the linear aspect of having a tree of the face and the Kether, the tree of the body, in the linear form, is the aspect of the human being. In the aspect of Yetzirah, it is in the aspect of side Partsufim, an example, the animals, 7 days under the mother. And on the aspect of Asiya, it is in the aspect of your feet being sideways. This is in the secret of the 22 letters, and analyzing the connection of their progression. And now my feet tread upon the serpent's head, and I know why they are sideways. Blessed are you, reader, in this world and in the world to come, to fully understand the divine pattern of Et Adam, the levels by which the divine pattern of the Lashon HaChodesh and its 22 letters manifest themselves. From the wounding of the head, we find that the shefa, or the flow of emanation here, are the flow of Abba, which is bone, as has previously been established. It is stated that animals will be side Partsufim and protrude bone from the 3 points of the head and or alongside the back. This is because they are formed after the likeness of this serpent as has been established. It is important to understand we are discussing constructs and not morally good or evil concepts, which are commonly associated with such things. It is forbidden to render literal translation. Thus we find the bruised head of the serpent refers to the exact locations where the bone emerges. An example, Keter, Chochmah, and Bina. Consider very carefully how, in relation to the woman's partsuf, they produce red from below but white from the breasts. This whiteness is because it is written, his right hand embraces me. An example, the right column, which is the whiteness. This whiteness is not only the secret of Chaya, as it is the attribute with Ima in relation to the white that emerges at the time of suckling, an example, breast milk, which gives life to the baby, but consider very carefully how this is also the quality of bone, and how in relation to the serpent, his head was bruised, an example, this exact location, as it was stated in the other pasuk, his left hand is under my head, and in this case, the head of the serpent is bruised. Thus we find whiteness flowing from this location, and this whiteness was the secret of the bone. Take careful time to analyze this concept. Notice how the animals are sideways. Notice how they are not just sideways, but they have a tree of the face and a kether, the tree of their body. And consider very carefully how bone protrudes from the sides of the animal's head and from the front. Also consider how the bone can protrude from the back, an example like that of the shell of a turtle. Let us continue onwards. Gate 37, the lion crouches. With this we can understand the bruised head, Keter, Chochmah, and Bina. Thus the serpent begins at Chesed, as established earlier regarding the first 3 sparks. Furthermore, Chesed is represented by the lion. As written, they all have the face of a lion to the right side. Thus we can understand why the serpent is likened to a lion crouching at the door, an example, Malchus. With this understanding, we can now unlock the secret of why the ancient mystery schools used a lion-headed snake to depict Zohar. Because the partsuf theme of the animal, the head is bruised, an example, Keter, Chochmah, and Bina. Thus the entry point to the partsuf theme of the animals is from Chesed, and they all have the face of a lion to the right and ox to the left, etc. Thus we find that a lion crouches at the door, an example, Malchus. With this bruising of the head, we also find the reason why animals lack the higher mentalities, an example, the higher intellect, the higher wisdom, and the higher reception. This is because they are disconnected, as it were, from Keter, Chochmah, Bina, lacking the mochen, or brain. With this, we can understand why the ancient mystery schools depicted Zohar as a lion-headed serpent. The serpent is the progression of the Sfirot and its interconnecting paths. Its head was a lion because they all have the face of a lion to the right side, and because the entry point to this partsuf is the sphere of Chesed. Out of his right hand goes Chesed, and they all have the face of a lion to the right side. This is all in the secret of the bruised head of the serpent, as it was just explained. And this brings us to our conclusion. In our next video, we will be going through Technical Gates 38, revealing the secrets of time. Rewatch this video very carefully and contemplate the very sublime mysteries that are revealed, as many great, powerful, and staggering secrets were made known in such a short period of time. Consider very carefully about the nature of bone in the flesh, and flesh in the bone, how to properly interpret these verses to reveal the atzil, the emanation, and not just contemplate it on an intellectual capacity, but through actually seeing it, which is the level of sight, the level of atzilus. Consider very carefully how the serpent casts on its belly to eat the dust, hence to why the animals are sideways. Behold how they have a tree of the face and a kether, the tree of their body. Consider very carefully why your feet are sideways. Consider carefully what the bruised head of the serpent alludes to. Notice the bone that is protruding from these locations, which was similar to what was revealed before in our last video. Secrets of Abba and Ima, his left hand is under my head, his right hand embraces me. And behold into all of these things. Consider how the heart has 4 chambers, how it is surrounded by 12 ribs, and these are likened to the 12 tribes. With all of this being said, As David HaMelech stated, "Open my eyes and I behold the wonders of your Torah." Until we convene again, Shalom and Selah.